Thank you, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to join this post-globalization conference. I come from Italy. I work for an organization called Recommon, which primarily works on global finance and the implication of global finance for natural resources management in the commons. By coming here this morning, I thought a lot about the title of the specific panel, in the sense that I'm sure Chiara, whom I know, and others will cover as well the implications of austerity measures, which at the moment are implemented primarily in Europe, but also elsewhere. But I would like quickly to give my perspective of if you like, a critical political economy about what is happening, in the sense that I think austerity measures are, of course, meaningless if you look at them even from a stereotyped macroeconomic point of view. They are deepening recession and so on. But I do believe they are functional to something else. Which has been a transformation of the neoliberal project and policies, which has been happening in the last years, and probably we haven't looked at this transformation with enough attention. So what I'm simply saying that what we're living is a transformation of the state. It's not just like the abolishment of the welfare system we have in Europe, for instance, but it's a transformation of the state, where the state is reformulated to play a different role from the past. In particular, on one key central element, the state is reorganized for serving a certain type of relationship with capital and financial markets. And in a nutshell, this is what we call financialization, which is an evolution, if you like, or built upon neoliberal policies, but it's also a certain type of policy response which has a wider implications. Of course, in today's world, in most of the economies, trading money and risk is much more profitable than trading goods and services. But it's not just like the expansion of finance. Is the subordination of every aspect of economy and life to the functioning of capital markets. So if a long time ago it was the state, then through the neoliberal process it was commercial markets, particularly globalized. Today it is primarily capital and financial markets meeting the needs of society and giving answer to the needs of society. This has a very, very systemic implication for where capital is invested, under which condition, and under which power relations. So this is my perspective. And just to stress even one more point, my perspective is that this is still a crisis of accumulation in terms of capital accumulation. And again, financialization is a new stage of answer to this crisis of accumulation. The first answer was primarily globalizing markets, privatizing for creating assets, and deflation on labor. These answers worked for 20-25 years. At one point they got back to the same point. Too much private wealth and capital accumulated, with too little profitable investment opportunities. And even the traditional global markets, despite the WTO and so on, were not giving, in all cases, profitable investment opportunities. And that's why they said we need to have a different stage. And basically that's what it has been, the unfolding of financialization. Trying to generate a massive amount of financial assets, highly profitable, where capital had to be invested. And this has affected everything, including what today we call the welfare state, or what was the welfare state, at least for countries who got it. Now, if you share this perspective, I think there is a key element which actually has been the basis for financialization to unfold, which has been, of course, the privatization of pension systems, in particular in the Anglo-Saxon world. This has generated a massive liquidity. That's why we got, together of course with the oil crisis, this massive amount of private capital accumulated, which had to be invested. So this was structurally part. So you can claim that the privatization of pensions and insurance, in particular in Western economies, was a key trigger for even deepening the crisis of accumulation during the 70s. And financialization gave at one point in the 90s what you might call a private Keynesian answer. We all get indebted in order to generate these new assets and allow the accumulation path through finance to continue. And then we got to 2007-2009 financial crisis of accumulation. In the sense, financial assets were not profitable again, and they had to generate more. So, from this perspective, why I'm saying this, that the commodification of what you might call social commons or public goods related to the welfare state, in a way, and of course the strictly intrinsically related privatization, in a way, today, the way how are formulated are basically in a different form, which has to be, since the beginning, instrumental to fixing a financial crisis of accumulation. So what I'm simply saying is that we won't see again the push in the coming years for privatization as we knew. Big state enterprises privatized and floated on the market, or privatization of pension system. What we will see is something much more sophisticated, orchestrated by a combo where the state and capital markets are exactly the same thing. Where the primary role of the state is to enlarge capital markets, and the primary role of capital markets is to serve some function of the state as long as the state serves the expansion of capital markets. It's a big, when you go to McDonald's and you want to get a Coke, I don't like McDonald's, but if you want to get a Coke, they force you to buy French fries. And if you want to get only French fries, they force you to get a Coke, okay? So, in a way, state and capital markets, you can't separate this any longer. At least this is the model which is being promoted. And this has a lot of implication. I mean, the first thing is that, first of all, public finance itself, which has always been the counterweight to capital markets, because it was an area of finance insulated from the market functioning, is intrinsically financed through capital markets. Basically, in Italy, if I cannot know today how much taxes I'm going to pay next year, because it depends how capital markets operate in terms of speculation, but not just speculation, so that they fix some interest rates, and the amount of tax I'm going to pay depends on the fluctuation of the markets, and so on and so forth. So this is a first major implication, and that's why I think the debt issue, public debt, is very important to break these issues. So more and more, in particular in continental Europe, we will be forced to face a different model for financing the welfare. It won't be simply, we're going to privatize the health system because it is ineffective. No, it's much more subtle. We can still keep the public ownership or public-private partnership, whatever it is, but the key point is to subordinate the financing of the health system to the functioning of the capital markets. So it means the health system has to issue bonds themselves. People need to get indebted. You should hedge your risk through different type of insurance, and the public will allow this, and the public will allow through different regulation pension funds to invest in more risky products, and so on and so forth. Education is the same. We're saying in Europe exactly what happened in the United States. You need to get a mortgage for going to university. And what you're going to do, in your perspective, is subordinate to the functioning of capital markets. With the privatization or the transformation of pension funds, more and more workers have to pray that capital markets extract more value in order to get a pension. So everyone, basically, including the poor, is transformed in a private investor which has to work for sustaining a certain accumulation path, primarily through capital markets. This is, in short, a much more deeper and concerning answer. Yeah, I'm going to close. Because this is a way, given that the state indebted alone won't ever be able to support the private sector, even through failing public-private partnership, is a very hypothetical long-term project to say we want to have a system where we're sure that there will be private capital markets ensuring a financing a perennial privatization. And the state role is simply to be sure to create capital markets, private, which will finance private corporation, private markets, serving the private. And within that, what about the poor and all the others? Well, don't worry, you can't financialize poverty. They're discussing about social impact bonds. Development cooperation. The Department for International Development in the United Kingdom proposed development bonds. Do you want to get aid money? Okay, don't ask government. Let's ask capital markets. We float bonds, we securitize development bonds, we issue derivatives on the poor, we upfront the money, we invest. What does it mean investing in the poor? You need to extract wealth from the poor for sustaining their financing. So basically in a nutshell, to conclude, what we will be told more and more is to say, do you want to get a welfare state? Do you want to help the poor? Okay, if you help us supporting the extra accumulation path on capital markets, we will do. But you have to be part of this challenge. Let's be part of the club. That's a blackmail. But this is not simply privatization, You can claim the workers become investors, even owners, and so on and so forth. You can't distinguish any longer as long as you accept that you're part of this combo. You cannot simply get French fries, you need to get a Coke if you go to McDonald's. And we can simply, we can talk about other areas, infrastructure financing, what the G20 is going to discuss here. Again, it's not just like privatizing infrastructure, no. It's about transforming infrastructure in an asset class. How we make infrastructure, how we securitize bridges of some kind, how we extract value from existing and future bridges. That's what it is about. And unfortunately, it's sad to say that emerging economies are exactly following the same path, in my view. They're not financialized as already the West is, but we're following the same path. So how to get out of it? I think there are two major avenues. I put it as a discussion. One is really how to prevent to create new asset classes. They are so dependent on these new financial assets to be created that if new assets are not created, of course the accumulation crisis will deepen and they will get stuck. So the resistance to privatization and commodification today, or for defending social welfare, is a fight against financialization. The key point is how we collect all these struggles together. But then there is another point. And the other point is even more dramatic. What the hell do we do with about $150, $160 trillion that every day are seeking for high yields in terms of their investment? And what is surreal is that the poor, or those without power, if they don't basically are concerned about how to manage the wealth of the rich, they will never get out of this. And I think this is, in my view, the two key questions we should address. Thank you. Sorry for